All right, we are live. All right, fellas, you guys ready for this?
Oh
Yep.
yeah, let's go.
All right, let's do this. What's up, everybody? We are live. Welcome to another session of the Gobble Gobble Podcast. As you guys can see, we have a full panel of men tonight. We have a great discussion, a topic to discuss tonight. Don't forget, for everybody out there, thank you so much. My name is Will. I am the host of this show, the number one Polynesian podcast in the world. Let's get it, y'all. Thank you so much. If you're tuning in right now, thank you so much for tuning in. And of course, to all my subscribers out there, people who follow my channel, support my channel, thank you so much for all the love and support. You guys already know what to do. If you love the content, appreciate the discussions that we have daily and weekly of the shows that we always commit to for you guys, don't forget to press and smash that like, subscribe button. Real quick, so you get notified when we do go live. Don't forget, this is a public show. Always appreciate you guys with different opinions and your feedback and your perspectives that you guys drop on the live chat. Let me know what you guys think. As you guys can know, we have a good topic that we're going to discuss tonight. Of course, other topic that's related to the main topic. Always appreciate what you guys think. Whether you agree or disagree, definitely let me know what you guys think on the live chat. And of course, show some love in the live chat. We just started this live show, so let me know where you guys tuning in from, and let me know what you guys think about the topic that we're going to discuss tonight. If you're not familiar with my content, I do allow people to come on and be part of the podcast. I know some of you guys did reach out to me on Instagram and Facebook that you guys were interested how to jump on the podcast. So I will post the public link on the live chat on YouTube. So if you're watching this from Facebook, if you're watching this from Twitch, you have to come to YouTube and go on the live chat. It will be pinned to the top of the screen. I'll post a link, and you guys can be part of the discussion as well. So always appreciate you guys. Always want to hear the different perspective to add to the conversation that we have. Always appreciate you guys out there. Whether you agree or disagree, especially the ladies, all the ladies out there, if you're watching this right now, whether you agree, I know there's a lot of ladies out there that get triggered by my content.
How dare you?
All right, especially the feminists, but I'm always open to hear a different opinion and have a conversation with those who may disagree. So if you do disagree, if you do have a different opinion, may disagree, I invite you to come on and be part of the podcast. I'll post a link on the YouTube live chat. Don't forget, for all you guys, we do have the super chat donations. Always appreciate you guys always dropping your financial donations to support my channel. I will be launching my podcast studio at the end of the year, going to 2023, to have in-studio live podcasts, and I'll invite men and women to come into the studio and do the exact same thing, but in studio. So I appreciate you guys for always supporting me. But if you have a specific question or topic that you guys want us to discuss, I know a lot of you guys do reach out to me on Instagram and ask me questions and topics that you guys want us to talk about. So you guys can do that to support my channel. Ask if there's a super chat donation, and I'll be able to prioritize that. Give you a shout out. I'll read it I'll put it on the screen and read it out for you. And I'll definitely ask my guests tonight to respond to you and let you know what you guys think. But that's pretty much it. That's all my YouTube stuff. I know we got some good fellas tonight that's going to join me on tonight's discussion. Shout out to all the fellas right now on the panel. All right. And I do know that I do have some other guests as well. They're going to jump on a little bit later. I will add them on real quick. But fellas, first and foremost, thank you so much for jumping on. I know we have a good topic to discuss. I'm really excited to have you guys on and join our tonight's discussion. But I know there's a lot of people right now, they may not know who we are. So fellas, if you go ahead and give yourself a quick intro for everybody out there. I'll start with you, with our newest guest jumping on the podcast for the first time. I'll start with you, TieGame Michael. Go ahead and introduce yourself real quick.
Hello, everybody. My name is TieGame Michael. First time on the podcast, so I look forward to the discussion that we're going to have tonight. And remember, people, the facts in life remains the same. There's no game but TieGame. Let's get it going.
I like that. All right. No worries. All right. Thank you, TieGame Michael. I appreciate having you on tonight's podcast. Let me pass it to a newest guest, first time on the podcast as well. Shout out to him as well. Mhoop 234. Go ahead and introduce yourself real quick.
How's it going, guys? Name's Matt. I'm over on the East Coast and excited to get some open dialogue and really fascinated by these sorts of conversations and the way that the dating game is turning into like the Wild Wild West. So hopefully we can get things squared out, and I'm looking forward to a good conversation with you guys.
All right, no worries, right? Man, excited to have you on. It is a Wild Wild West, I do agree. So we'll definitely figure out some good conversations tonight. Thank you, Mhoop 234, for jumping on. And of course, last but not least, I know you guys probably familiar with him. You guys seen him before in the recent podcast I did with him. Devil's Advocate, go ahead and introduce yourself real quick.
Yeah, what's going on, guys? Devil's Advocate, or David. You can call me David since it's kind of a mouthful. I just like to play Devil's Advocate. I like to prod people's political and philosophical views just to make sure they're consistent. And what that helps me do is weed out the people who just shape their views around things that serve their self-interests and can change at any time. I praise philosophical consistency. Even if you believe something I don't believe, or I might even think is immoral, at least you're consistent in what you believe. So that's kind of where my name came from. I also have a YouTube channel I haven't been as active on lately just because of real life stuff. But now that I'm more steady, I actually finished a data analytics boot camp. Will's going to tell you that I like numbers. I like data. And I'm a tech infrastructure engineer by day. So you'll hear me come with some like weird or nerdy facts, and that's just kind of what I do to play devil's advocate. So I look forward to the discussion, and welcome to the new members.
All right, no worries. Yeah, you are my stat man. You're my go-to when I need the stats, I need the studies. That's why I go to devil's advocate. Thank you, David. Thank you, Devil. I'll definitely drop the links for all these fellas tonight on the description below. So if you guys definitely want to support them, please support them in their channels as well. But we'll go right into the topic without further ado. The topic that we're going to discuss tonight: are men ready for a relationship in 2022? So, to start off the podcast, I do have a clip. I want to play a clip real quick. I was interested to hear what women think or why they think that men are not ready for a relationship. So I saw this video that was pretty much the most viewed video on this topic. It was a dating coach. So I just want to play the video real quick just to see from the perspective of men, because today on tonight's podcast, you guys will hear it. I know a lot of women, when they talk about relationships, when they talk about why my man not giving me the relationship I want, usually they get the perspective from other women. And they never hear the perspective from the men. So we're definitely going to hear the perspective of men, but it'll be interesting just to hear what the women are saying. So I'm just playing this video real quick for everybody out there watching this right now. Let me know what you guys think as you're reacting to it, and then I'll go back to my guests, ask you guys for your reaction, and of course you guys can hear from the men as well, from the perspective of men, and why a lot of men today are not ready. Are they ready for a relationship in 2022? So that's gonna be the main discussion tonight. So let me play the video real quick, and then I'll come back to you guys real soon. So let me play the video and let me know what you guys think as you're reacting to it on the live chat. And
for a relationship and someone who just says they are. If they are ready, they're not afraid to tell you the things that they're working on, their strong suits as well as their weak suits. They've taken time to analyze themselves and not just point the finger. They don't just tell you everything you want to hear. And they don't just agree with you. They tell you how they really think, even if it doesn't align with yours. I always say this one, but their actions and their words match up. If they say they want to get to know you, they actually show that with their actions. They take time to listen and ask you questions. Now you'll know if someone's not ready because they're really confusing. They're half in, they're half out, and this could be because of their past experiences. Or unfortunately, they didn't learn about themselves yet. They don't know what they like. They don't even know what they want. And that is not wrong. It is okay to not know what you want because relationships help you with that sometimes. But if you know what you want, then don't wait around hoping that the other person will figure that out.
all right. Okay. All right. So that was the advice that the dating coach was giving out for all the men out there about why a lot of men are not ready for relationships. So before I pass it to you fellas, and let me ask you what you guys think. I just want to preface this for everybody out there, because I do hear from a lot of women to say that why aren't men giving me the relationship I want, or why men are not ready. Even though that video I did watch, there's some things I did agree, but I think oftentimes when you have that discussion with women, oftentimes we got to be able to address both sides. See the perspective of what a man needs to improve, but oftentimes what gets left out is what women need to improve on to make sure that to attract the type of relationship we want. Because I do agree that, like I've had this podcast before with Devil and other guests as well. We talk about men need to become better men, strong men. Men don't know how to lead a family. But I'll just say first and foremost, we live in very weird times today. I do hear a lot of women, they say they want a man to man up, they want a man to be a strong man. But we live in a time today where, obviously for a lot of men, you guys know, we have feminism. There's a big narrative out there that tells men, you know what, male leadership is oppressive. They tell a lot of men, you know what, there's not in a relationship. There's a lot of women out there saying, you know what, there's no biological roles between a man and a woman. I don't expect man to be a man in a relationship. We can be equal. I literally had a podcast last week with a woman. I'm sure some of you guys saw the clips. I asked a woman, you know what, if a man, is it a man's obligation to protect you? And then some women say, you know what, I don't need him to protect me. Even if somebody's about to harm me and assault me, I don't need him to be a man, but I want him to give him the relationship, and I want him to be the man. So oftentimes, you know, a lot of guys are like, okay, we want to be in relationships, but how can I be in a relationship when I don't have a space to be the type of man I want to be, or just be a strong man? So, and of course, there's a lot of people out there that, you know, demonizing men for being men. Obviously, feminism, there's this move of toxic masculinity. So the very traits that make a man become a great man are the same traits that they demonize and say it's toxic. So it's a weird time today to be a man, especially a very young man out there that's going to watch this podcast that want to give a woman the type of relationship that he wants and wants to be a good man and wants to have a long-term faithful marriage and relationship. But we are living in times now that the very things that makes us great as men are the very things that women are against or telling men not to do, or it's toxic. So it's going to be interesting to hear this conversation from all of you guys. And I see you, TL. I know you're going to join us right now. I see you in the chat. Hey, y'all, I'm on my way home now, but I'm tuning in via phone. Yeah, of course, whenever you're ready to jump on and be part of the podcast. But yeah, I just wanted to start off that conversation with that. So for all the women out there that's watching this right now, they say, you know, why, and you know, complaining about why the men aren't giving me the relationship I want. But I know you have a lot of women would say, you know, these are things that they want out of the man, but oftentimes they never have the conversation because you got to be able to see both sides, not only from the men's perspective, from the women's perspective, but also see it from the men's perspective as well. So, but yeah, I just want to start off that podcast for everybody that's watching right now. Think about that, and let me know what you guys think on the live chat. But let me pass it to the fellas. Fellas, what do you guys think as you guys react to that video? But also, what's your general thoughts on the topic that we to start off the podcast? Are men ready for a relationship today in 2022 in today's sexual sexual marketplace and dating marketplace? All right, I'll pass it to you. Starting with our newest guest, the TieGame, Michael. What do you think? What's your initial thoughts about the topic? Are men ready for a relationship in 2022 with modern women in the modern dating culture today?
I mean, I feel like the question is a very broad question when you ask, are men ready for committed relationships in 2022? I definitely would say that it definitely depend on the man. I do believe that a lot of men are ready for committed relationships, and you also have a lot of people that's not ready for relationships. That dating coach of the video that you played at the beginning, personally, I don't see anything that she said necessarily see anything that she said was wrong with a person that is ready for a committed relationship. From what she was saying, she was pretty much saying that a man that wants to be with you or that's ready for a committed relationship, you're gonna know, because there ain't gonna be any uncertainty. You ain't gonna be left confused. You're gonna know exactly what that man wants, and he's gonna make it very clear about what he wants. And that is something that I agree with. Just life in general, most people that's confusing or in and out, as she has said on the video, they don't know what they want. They're confused. They're thinking about it. They may be thinking about you or somebody else, trying to see what is the better option per se. But when you got somebody that's really about you, and they really gonna step about you, it ain't gonna be none of that. It ain't gonna be none of those uncertainties or anything like that. So as far as that video, I do agree with the majority of what she was saying. Make it clear. And men are definitely ready to be in committed relationships these days. It's just that you got to find somebody to be committed with. You know, it's all about, you got to find a person. You got to find a person that works for you. You got to find a person that's y'all on the same playing field. You know, y'all may not agree on everything, but y'all know where y'all headed and you know where you're going. And with the culture and the way that everything is set up today, I will say that can be very hard to find somebody, because we live in a whole world where it's not really about relationships. It's more so about self-gratification, you know, do whatever makes me feel good. And that within itself causes issues if you're trying to be with another person, because if you're trying to be with another person, it necessarily can't be all about you.
Okay. All right, no worries. All right, thank you for sharing that. The tie game, Michael. Let me pass it to you, Mhoop 234. What do you think? What's your initial thoughts about tonight's topic? And of course, we're definitely going to dive into the very specifics. I know it is a general topic, but I do have specifics we're going to dive into. But what's just everybody's general thoughts real quick on the topic? Go to Mhoop 34. What do you think?
So TieGame said it pretty basically. I agree with what he said. As far as the video, she, of course, who wouldn't want a partner like that? I believe that video is in a perfect world. So, because like we're not perfect people. So, for example, all the things that she listed, maybe a guy's ready for a committed relationship, and he only has 3 out of the 10 things that she listed. And we got to get used to we got to get back to realizing that a relationship is an adaptation of 2 people. Meaning that like when you jump into a committed relationship and you're not just dating, you have to be ready to like give and take. You have to be ready to allow certain things to slip that aren't as important to you. And then you have to be able to be ready to like accept a few things that you might not agree with, as long as they're not deal breakers or anything like that. But ultimately, like, I think that what she said was great. If you could find a partner like that, that's really awesome. As far as men wanting a committed relationship, just like TieGame said, man, it's out there. I mean, you can find it if you learn how to narrow your search, because it is kind of like a wild west out there in dating. But the thing is that like one thing that I learned is that a lot of the things that you find that you want are based off of experience in your life. So for example, like when I first started dating in my 20s, I had no idea what I wanted. I thought I wanted to go out there and be a player. I thought I could have a girlfriend and go like be a player at the same time and all this stuff. Well, like I learned really quickly that that's not really my style. And so while some people can do that and that's totally cool, over time I learned a lot more, and we will learn more about ourselves the more experience that we get, and we will become more specific with what we will allow, with what we won't allow, with things that we're cool with and not cool with. So I think that, even though it gets a little bit crazy out there, like if you're looking for something specific, be out front with it. Bring it out in the beginning stages of dating, and like when you let them know. And then at least it might be nerve-wracking. You might not want to bring it out, because a lot of the things that that dating coach said, I found that there are people that will date and they want to be those things, but they don't know how or when to be those things, if that makes sense. Like sometimes we don't want to, sometimes we are quirky, but we don't want to bring that quirkiness out in the beginning so that there's a chance to scare away this person that we like. Maybe a little bit later, and on certain times we can bring that out when we feel that you're more connected with somebody and stuff like that, and then the quirkiness can kind of come out, if that makes sense. And that's what I've learned with a lot of levels of being yourself. Now, one thing is like, don't let people tell you that that's necessarily not being original or you're being fake. There's a lot of that term being thrown around as like fakeness and stuff like that, but it's the same as like, for example, I've been a server in a restaurant. I didn't always want to go to work. I didn't always want to keep a smile on my face, but I had to in order to make that money or make tip money or do what I needed to do. Does that mean that I'm fake just because I went to work and put on a face? I don't feel that. But with that said, is like, yes, there's an extreme, and I'm not saying that you put on a mask for anything, but I'm just saying like sometimes we, the term is like we're like an onion and we shed layers. Well, sometimes in relationships we do that too. And so the tricky part is learning which layer to shed at what time without hurting our significant other or anything like that. And so I do feel that there are, like TieGame said, there are certain demographic of men that are absolutely down to have a committed relationship. They want to get married, they want to have children. And then there's other guys that might be in the middle and are testing out the waters, which is probably in our early stages, probably a majority of us. And then there are us guys that want to chill and date and just like do our thing and stuff like that. And the main thing is to be open about it and honest, because at least you'll weed out the ones that aren't down for that, or you won't break hearts or possibly get your heart broken.
All right, no worries. All right, thank you, Mhoop. 234. I think TL said on the live chat, damn, Mhoop makes me sound like an asshole.
Nah, not at all, man. Everybody's got their own walk of life.
No worries, no worries. All right, thank you, TL. Let me pass it to you, Devil. Devil, what do you think? What's your reaction? Of course, what's your initial thoughts on the topic on tonight? Go ahead, Devil.
Yeah, as far as if men are ready for relationships, I would say they are, unless your argument is that they were never ready for monogamous relationships with women, then that's a different argument. But if you don't agree with that, then my question would be, what has changed that has made men not ready for monogamous relationships now? Because I think that men have never really changed what they want in women, and have not changed in nature by much. We might be a little bit less aggressive or assertive, and I think that just comes with modern times and the safeties that come with modern times. You know, you don't have to defend your family from attackers as often, or like, you know, wildlife. Like, that just doesn't happen anymore. So that makes sense. But in regards to the video, what, like, her first point was, do you know your strengths and weaknesses? So the way I would attack that one is, what might be causing men to be oblivious to their weaknesses? What might be causing women to be oblivious to knowing their weaknesses? And I would say that men are told, or they're hit with reality harder and at a younger age than women are in most regards. So if a guy is weak, or he's short, or he's not very smart, he'll probably know that by kindergarten, one way or another. Whereas, and a lot of those things tie into their value in the dating market, right? You'll know your rank pretty quick. And then with women, I think there are more forces at play that make them oblivious to knowing their weaknesses. Like their self-help books, a lot of things that are masked as self-help is really just stay the way you are. Love your curves. You know, this is why, you know, you need to stay away from toxic people. Like, even when I see the word self-care, usually that's just something to make them look better, like, or maybe a massage, but usually it's like a fucking spa day, go and put makeup on, get your hair done. Like, how does that make you a better person? By enhancing the mask that you wear, you know? So, like, I think that men are ready. And if you go down her list, so we don't have to do all of them, I just looked at the first one, but you would ask, like, if there's significant evidence that men don't know their strengths and weaknesses, and they used to a lot better, then the answer to that might be, okay, maybe men aren't ready for monogamous relationships. But I think the reason that we don't do relationships as well is because women have changed in nature and also in their standards and what they want in men. And I think that's why less relationships are happening now. But as far as what men want, I don't think that they've really changed much. They still like cooperation, feminine, dare I say, submissive women in many cultures. You know, whereas women, they've increased their earnings potential. They've become more obese. They've become more masculine. So, I mean, I think the question might be turned the other way on them.
All right.
But if there are any disagreements, I'm happy to listen.
No worries, no worries. All right, thank you, Devil. So yeah, fellas, thank you for your initial thoughts to open up tonight's podcast. But let's definitely dive into a very specific topic that's related for tonight's podcast. So tonight's topic. So I know you guys said a lot of things. I know time TieGame, you said, there's some men are, there's some men are not ready, some men are ready. And I did agree with a lot of what you guys said, but I want to ask you guys, fellas, today in 2022, if you look at it statistically, men are choosing to get married later on in life, right? I think the average age right now, I think for men to get married, I think 30. But I think like 30, 40 years ago, the age was significantly less. So obviously, we all know the term, women control access to sex, men control access to relationships. We're the ones that have to give the women the commitment to be in a relationship. So traditionally, back in the day, we were willing to get married younger, and we were willing to get married to give women relationships. But today, for some reason, and I want to ask you guys, why do you think, for some reason, men are choosing? I think TieGame you said it, that it's taking a little bit harder for men to take their time to find a good quality woman. Mm-hmm. So one of the things I have noticed before, I believe in traditional dating. I'm a traditional guy, but I do believe one of the things in the past, when we dated traditionally, like 40, 50 years ago, when we had the very roles that was expected in a relationship fit into our natural biological preference as men. And of course, the type of women that I think Devil brought up a great point, the sexual marketplace, the type of women that we wanted to date back in the day were the women who wanted to raise children, be feminine, wanted the men to lead the household. That was the type of woman before in the past, but now we have a different dating marketplace where women can work, women can be masculine. So they have they don't want men no more to be in a very biological role. For a lot of women, that's very triggering. They want a partnership. So there's a lot of reasons why there are a lot of women right now, they want men to step up immediately, the type of men they want. But for a lot of men, you know what? They're choosing to delay it. It's not the traditional times back in the 40, 50 years ago when we instantly find a woman, we got married and we moved on and had families and built families at a very young age. So I want to ask you guys, why do you think men today are choosing to delay marriage? They're choosing to delay a committed relationship. They're taking their time, to surveying the landscape, to surveying the day sexual marketplace, to find, like TieGame Michael said, to find that one woman and finally give her commitment of relationship once. So I'll start with you, TieGame. Why do you think men today are deciding to delay a committed relationship and marriage later on in their life?
I would have to say some of the biggest reasons that I would think that they're delaying it is, one, the laws of marriage. I think us as men see enough men, quote unquote, getting screwed over when it comes to marriage, especially if the marriage don't go right, where you're really thinking about and delaying, if I really want to marry this woman, because in the back of your head, you're like, if this goes wrong, I can possibly lose everything that I ever worked for. I can be set back emotionally, financially, because oftentimes, especially what's shown, is that we don't get a fair shake if it go wrong. Whereas a woman, they can look at marriage as, if I get married and it go cool, great. If it don't go good, I'm still going to come out winning anyway. You can, just take that from a divorced man. I am divorced. I did have children while I was married, when I had my children. And the fact that I had to fight so hard to get my children when we was going through the divorce will make me look at everybody else as far as taking that step to get married as, do I really want to go through that? And I did end up winning, but I also know that that really don't happen too often. You understand what I'm saying? So it's like, it's kind of like, God, like, okay, you got in that situation. Thank you. It's like, you got in that situation, it went bad, but you did win. You did get what you want. None of you want to take that chance again. And then secondly, I think that man will be delaying is because a lot of men probably just don't find a lot of women out here that's worth being committed to. A lot of people want to be for the quote unquote streets, as we should say. A lot of people don't see the value of being in a committed relationship at this point in their lives. It's like everybody just want to take what they can get. And, us as men, we see this. We see the chick that's talking to us, but talking to 1,000 other men at the same time. We see the woman who you got over your house getting busy with, and she's on the phone with her man saying that she's out with the girls, and you know you about to clap them cheeks. So it's just so much. We see the influences that they have nowadays. And man may look at that and be like, you know what, you may be good to have fun with, may be good to go out every now and then, but I may not necessarily think that it's good to actually be with you and be committed to you. We see I do like a lot of stuff that we see and a lot of stuff that we've been through, whether if we've been through it personally or not, it does shape the way you see things. If you're on the internet enough, you'll see a gang of cheating videos. You'll see a gang of videos of married people being married for 20, 30 years just for it all to go down the drain. You gotta think to yourself, do you really want to be a part of that? Or you just want to dibble and dabble, get what you want and go on about your business? So those will be my reasons, like the laws, because they don't never really seem to work out in our favor. And also, do we actually feel like there's a great selection of options to actually be committed to in that type of format?
Man, you said some great points, TieGame, Michael. We're definitely the points I'm definitely gonna dive in later on the podcast. But let me pass it to you, Mhoop 234. A lot of women out there that want men to instantly give them the relationship they want, but there's a lot of men today they're choosing to delay relationships in a committed long-term marriage. Why do you think men are delaying giving women today a relationship?
Let's see. A couple reasons are, first of all, gender roles. They're getting switched up, straight up. Women, by all means, I'm not against women going to get their bag per se. Never against that. I've never been opposed to dating women that were successful and made money. I've dated women that make considerable more money than I did. But I did notice a few things. And I'm sure that we can all agree on the fact that, like, let's be honest here, like, financial stability is wonderful, right? So I'm not worried that that's important to women. I don't believe that women are gold diggers, unless, there are those out there. But generally, when I say that women prefer to be financially stable, that's not a gold digger reference or anything like that. So yes, of course, if they feel that they're going to go out and get their bag, then by all means, boo-boo, go and do that. But like, so that's one point. And to be honest, that checks, like, a lot of men have an issue with that. I never struggle with that. I wouldn't say the majority of men do, but I know that it checks some men's egos at times. And that's just a personal problem that you'd have to deal with and work on. With that said, I think that the gender role swap is having a major effect as far as things like feminism and toxic masculinity and stuff like that. Those are terms in and of itself that are toxic. And to be honest with you, we see the internet side and then we see the general population side. And I don't think that the majority of women are really understanding, because when they swap over to more of the masculine role, and I say that without referring to women as masculine for that specific thing, because all the women I've dated were very feminine. I think maybe only one relationship I had where she was really masculine. She straight up would sit there and be like, these bitches need to shut their mouth and go into the kitchen and make me a sandwich and make their man a sandwich. And when I heard that, I was like, whoa, that's like totally unheard of, right? But to be honest with you, like, the way that she acted and went about herself, it just wasn't my style. It was pretty masculine, and the way that she viewed those things, it wasn't cute, right? So that's when I realized, like, I would prefer women to be feminine. And if you ask most women, they want to be feminine ultimately. They ultimately want to be feminine. and they enjoy being feminine, and the majority of them. And so with that said, is like with this role swap, I feel that women are they're so, it's like with people who've never had money before. It's like, oh, I'm going to go and buy this and do that and do that and do that. And then next thing you know, you're in debt. Well, when women are like, oh, I'm going to go get my bag and do all that stuff and not realize that, because honestly, gentlemen, we're seeing the very first stages of this. Wait till women start having these businesses and start going bankrupt. Wait till the lights go out for some reason and they need a dude to figure out how to get the lights back on. Like, it's the truth. Like, men as providers have generally over generations learned how to provide a lot of these things through trial and error. And so women are just now kind of learning, and not all of them, and some of them would argue, and that's fine. But like, I'm noticing a trend is like, go get your bag, love. But if you, heaven forbid, if your business it goes in the shit, you're still going to have to figure out how to pay those bills. You're still going to have to figure out how to support your children or whoever's family that you're with, and all those things. And I think that we're so new in this like whole movement of like women making their money and taking on more masculine roles and being like the head of their house, that we haven't delved far enough into seeing what some of the more drastic things that could happen, like us men kind of know. You know what I'm saying? She goes out there with a bunch of money. Well, I'm like, if you keep flashing this, lady, a man's going to come up and want to rob you. And then what are you going to do? Because you don't need a man. You know what I'm saying? So it's like I love women that are successful and remain feminine and sit back and go, listen, I'm no better than my man. He respects me in the same respect. And then we just go on that. And that's what I've noticed some of the best relationships are built upon, is like a team. And so like, that's just kind of how I view it, is like, that's one of the bigger things is general. And then really quickly, the internet. Let's be honest. The internet shows generally a different overall narrative than what we actually live in real life. And what I mean by that is like, we've all probably been caught up in a Facebook or an Instagram scrolling session where we ended up just kind of spending hours and hours and hours. That's one of the reasons why I dumped Facebook, was because I would fall into like this black hole of just stupid ass information. I wouldn't learn anything, and then I would end up getting influenced, and then I would notice that I would become like, if I fell into a bunch of political posts, I would become more political. So the internet is kind of facilitating that way. So if we fall into a certain ideology, we don't mean to, and we might not mean to by nature, but we end up falling into that shit. And the problem is like, that's separating men and women. Where like, and I'm open-minded to all the whole roles of the house. If you can make it work, I don't care who does what. But like, for example, if you're a more traditional man and you want to find, you want to find a woman who has traditional values as well, because that's what's going to work for the best of both of you. So if that's what has worked, then when you get a woman who wants to get her bag, and then she wants to go and just post it all online, and you're not about that, then that's going to create a rift. And
Gotcha.
So those are two of the things that I've noticed is the gender role swap. And it doesn't apply to everybody, don't get me wrong, and then the internet having a major influence on the way that we think and the way we walk and stuff like that. So
Gotcha.
It's wild out there.
All right, appreciate that. Thank you so much for sharing that. MC Hoop, I'm sorry, Mhoop 234, and I'll pass it to you, Devil, and then I'll come back full circle and open up for open discussions just to make sure that do we agree with some things, do we disagree with certain things, and we can kind of open that dialogue up real quick. I'll start with you, Devil. What do you think? Why do you think men are doing a relationship?
I think speaking to why like we're pushing back marriage, right? Why we're marrying later and later. I think that that's happening in society because it's a bad deal for men, but the population's easier, not to get all conspiratorial, but the population's easier to control when the family unit's broken down and it's not under the control of male leadership. Women can be convinced to spend money elsewhere or extract money from ex or ex-husband she doesn't like through the family court system. Like there's just so many different ways. And the reason why it's a bad deal for men, because I know there's people in the chat that are going to disagree, is because honestly, ask yourself, what are a man's best years? What are a woman's best years? It's very rare that men from age 18 to like 30 can have their pick of the litter. In college, if you have status and game, then you might be able to get away with it because no one has financial responsibility. I was lucky to, I guess genetically I got a little lucky. And then just having been a college athlete, like I wasn't anything special. I was D2, but I got to get a taste of not being in the bottom 80% in college. But then as soon as you graduate from college, you're competing against, because celebrities are in every girl's DMs or most attractive girls' DMs, pro athletes. So you're not competing against, just fellow college classmates. You're competing against the best there ever was, the richest there are, people with yachts and boats and they can fly girls out. So what I'm trying to say is women stay single and maximize their pleasure during their best years. And that is kind of unprecedented. I think it might've happened in ancient Rome before it fell. And there are tons of modern parallels to ancient Rome. That's a story for another day. Even the divorce settlement laws were similar right before they collapsed. But whereas men's best years, where they tend to have the pick of the litter and they have the, men take longer to mature. They're not as easily controlled by sex and the impulse the older they get, So at around age 30 to 35, I found that the script flips. And you can even pull up that graph of by age, all age demographics of men. If they could have their pick without judgment, they would prefer women from the age of, I think it was like 21 to 24 was the perfect sweet spot. Whereas women tend to like men that are older than them and higher in socioeconomic status than them. And that was pretty consistent among women. So now you see why getting married later is a worse deal for men, because men are just kind of entering the phase where they could, had they been single, get the pick of the litter as a guy with all your debts paid off. If you kept in shape and you're 32 to 38, 30 to 38, maybe even to 44. If you know who the lead attorney is, he's in great shape and he's an attorney, just retired at 44, and he has his pick of the litter in Atlanta. So his female counterpart that's in good shape, that's 44, high earner, would not have her pick of the litter. I mean, and I'm nothing special, but I wouldn't date a 44-year-old woman, no matter who she is. I want to build my own family from scratch. So that I think is why it's a worse deal for men. But to pander to the female imperative gives politicians and whoever else you think is in power more power over people, is to keep the family unit separate and to sweeten the deal for women for political power.
All right, no worries right there. Thank you for sharing that, Devil. And thank you, fellas, for opening up the conversation. And shout out to everybody that's watching this right now. Don't forget to like and subscribe, y'all. If you're watching this right now, press that like button. And of course, I just posted the public link on the YouTube live chat. So if you guys want to jump on, I know some of you guys did reach out to me on Instagram and Facebook. You wanted to jump on, definitely click on that link, especially to the ladies. If there are some ladies watching this right now and you disagree, I would love to have you guys jump on and be part of tonight's panel and hear what you guys think. But fellas, I know you guys have different opinions and different things. I just want to open up for open discussion real quick, open dialogue. Are there certain things that you wanted to respond to, or certain things that you wanted to expand on more based on what other the other guests on this panel. I wrote some things that I just want to ask you guys real quick, but I want to pass it to you guys real quick.
I think everybody had good points. What I like is that we all had different points. That's what I like, and we were all kind of hitting it from different angles and stuff like that. Especially, that's a good point from Devil's Advocate, is where like the legality part of it, the political part. I mean, the political part is like it's the same with the internet. We get like caught up in it, and then we run with it, and then what TieGame said about the legality part of it, that's a major L. Like, as a man who like worked his ass off, we've all seen that clip of the dude, that white dude that went and served 5 years, and just to pay for not paying child support, just to find out that the kid was not his.
Yeah,
that is a major blow. Like, I could not imagine. Listen, I've been to jail. Like, that's a shitty way of life. And the truth is, he straight served 5 years just because some woman, and what's worse is she allowed that to happen. There's no way that I want to be associated with somebody that would allow that to happen. I hope I never run across somebody that would allow me to go behind bars without saying something about it or knowing. How does somebody like that sleep at night? I don't understand that. Like, that's a horrible, horrible thing.
All right, no worries. I had a question for TieGame, Michael. I know you said that you were divorced. So obviously in America, the divorce rate's over 50%. 80% of women initiate the divorces. You already mentioned the legal system is leaning towards the women. There's no benefits for us when it comes to the legality of a divorce. And there are statistics out there that, second or third marriages, statistically, it has a higher chance to get divorced after your first marriage. So if a lot of men today are getting divorced, based on your experience, do you think that marriage is something that's going to lose it's going to be like a trend that's lost, we're going to move into in a modern society, maybe 20, 30, 40 years ago, maybe in the future, like marriage today be probably the last time that we see in today's era, but the next generation or 2 or 3 generations from now, because if all the guys right now are getting divorced by majority of the women, and they all have bad experiences, and like obviously there's a lot of guys that probably wouldn't want to put themselves in that situation again. What's your thoughts about that? Like, do you think that based on where the marriage and divorce is happening today, do you think that marriage is something that we only going to see today and it's going to die out in the future? What are your thoughts about that?
Yeah, I mean, I think we already at that point, honestly, and I can definitely see that. I mean, when you look at and I'm not saying I'll never get married again. I mean, honestly, I love to get married again. Marriage is a wonderful thing if it works out. Marriage is a wonderful thing if you marry the right person, like with everything else in life, right? But it's definitely losing. Marriage is losing right now. And I mean, what do you expect when you have a whole society telling you that you don't need a man? And then you don't need a man, you don't need a woman, fuck these bitches, fuck these niggas, these niggas ain't shit, these hoes ain't shit, right? And you're growing up with that mentality. So you're growing up with that mentality, and it starts from when you're young. So we have a lot of households that's broken up. It's a lot of men that's not in the household. So if it's a lot of men that's not in the household, what as a daughter, what are you hearing growing up? Oh, these men ain't ish. Your daddy ain't ish.
Yeah.
What is that little boy hearing? Man ain't ish. Your daddy ain't ish. You're just like your daddy, right? So you take this, and you've been growing up with this type of mentality your whole life. So when you come across somebody, you feel like you don't have to be a good woman to that man. You're gonna do what you want to do. Or you feel like you don't have to be a good man to that woman. You do what you want to do. because it's all about me. It's all about self. All about self. It's all about how you feel at that moment, your happiness. We see a lot of that today, right? Now, your happiness is important. Your happiness is very important. Because if you ain't happy yourself, you can't make nobody else happy. But they also be overdoing it to the point where it can become detrimental.
It
Especially
breeds selfishness.
exactly, especially if we're talking in the relationship sense.
Hmm.
You know, if I want to go to the club, I like chicks with leggings. I may want to go to the club and smack some ass, but I can't do that if I'm in a committed relationship. But if I have the attitude of I'm just going to make myself happy, it's all about what I want to do in this moment. I'm going to do that and completely disrespect what I got going on, or vice versa. So I think until they can start showing the benefits, and especially these laws start getting fair, like no man should have to fight for his kids. That's a big one. No man should have to fight for his kids.
All right, no worries. I thank you for sharing that, TieGame. I also want to ask you, Mhoop. I know you mentioned before that you found dynamics of women that were very successful, but they, at the same time they were very feminine. Do you think that's something that's prevalent? Do you think that's prevalent? Because all the times we have this conversation, and also my experience when I noticed that the higher I guess the higher she rises up in her social economic level, the more masculine she becomes. It's very hard for her to wear two hats, where she can be very masculine in the workplace and take that hat off and come to a relationship with her man and still be able to be very feminine to her masculine man. I just think it's something that it's really hard to navigate, or maybe very rare to find that type of woman who can, especially if you're a very ambitious type of man. That if you want to climb to the top of the mountain and you want to be able to become one of those high quality, very successful men, it's going to be very hard to find a woman that's going to be just as successful as you and still be feminine. Like, well, what's your thoughts about? Do you think those women exist? That's a rarity, or do you think that that's something that's possible for a man?
So, first of all, I'll say like it can be a very slippery slope. I'll
Yeah,
admit that.
yeah,
Um, and it took for me to learn a few things to kind of navigate properly. One thing that I did notice, to be honest, and like as we have these conversations, I want to try to focus more towards coming up with solutions
yeah,
instead of like harping on the situation.
yeah,
And I'll be straight up with you guys, like the majority of my extended relationships, and I never planned it this way, it just happened that way. These women have made considerably more amount of money than I did. I'm the blue collar type of dude. Like, to be honest, like I started dating a chick who was an anesthesiologist, and I worked sales at a gym. I met her at my gym. And so while I'm working at the front desk, she'll pull up in a Lexus RCF. Now I'm aware, like I don't get my ego checked with that. That's a big thing. So if you are not afraid to date women like that, you got to check your ego first of all. And I had enough confidence in myself because I'm sitting here going, okay, if this woman is interested in me and she wants to date me, then clearly I have something to offer her. So that's what I always was my baseline.
mm,
And so with that said, is like that's one thing that we got to check is our egos. With that, also is like um, you will notice. You have to be upfront. Like you have to let her know. I mean, she asked me, "Hey, I do make a lot of money, and does that bother you?" And I said, "Not at all." But you have to be aware that when you go out in public and people know your situation, you have to be cool with like, oh, there's gonna be some people that are like, oh, Mhoop has got a sugar mama. That didn't bother me because I knew myself and I was
mm,
confident in the things that I offer. So like, and I'm sitting there going like, well, what are you complaining for? Like, what do you got? I always boiled it down to that. So
mm,
I allowed myself to remain confident. And another thing is confidence, dude. Like, I can't tell you back in my 20s, there wasn't a woman that if I was interested enough in getting that I couldn't get her. That was
yeah,
my mindset. Now that doesn't mean that you walk around all cocky and I didn't do any of that. I always knew my lane and I stayed in my lane. But see, what I will say to males is that, listen, the quicker that you can check your ego, there's a lot that you can learn from a successful woman, whether it be good or bad. That's the truth. And so I learned a lot of good. I learned a lot of bad. I had great examples and I had some tough examples. And the truth is, like I said, I never really planned it that way. That's just kind of how some of them played out, but it never bothered me. I mean, it really didn't. And like I said, I'm pretty blue collar. So I wasn't the most ambitious type. Now I will say this is like, if you're going to date women in that field, you better be able to excel at certain areas, or else they will, like I said earlier, financial stability is very big in women's minds. And while I don't harp on that, as you guys can tell, because I'm down to date these women, like, I'm not gonna lie, I'll date, I don't care if I'll date Rihanna. I don't care. Like, if she's interested in me, I'll do it. So, because I know that there's certain things that I can excel at. So if you're a male and you want to dive into that, because I know that what I've noticed, Will, is like, even outside of the internet aspect, males are very intimidated generally because of their own reason by successful women. And a lot of it, I think, is ego. And a lot of it is like, maybe I can't measure up, or maybe, she's going to leave me. Well, there's always a chance anybody could leave you. She could be a homeless chick if you date her. Go ahead.
Before you move on to your next point, and again, I'm gonna let you finish, but I just wanted to speak on that for a little bit. So you can go ahead and finish that point.
Go ahead.
Granted, I do think there are a lot of men out there with egos, and I'm debating on whether I want to bring personal experience in or just general rules that I know based on statistics.
I did.
Yeah. I have an ex that is now she's a nurse practitioner specializing in cancer treatment. So she makes between 200 and 300K. But we broke up when we were in like the high school sweetheart phase. So like, and it was because of location. It wasn't someone cheated. It was just like we went to separate colleges and it ended up not working out. So like, there's like a weird sense of unfinished business there, like not in a toxic way to future relationships, but like it wasn't like a normal relationship. We haven't messed around, we don't still mess around or whatever, but like I'm just trying to think of the dynamic because every guy likes to say that, oh, that wouldn't intimidate me, but I learned some things. Like, it's a great mindset to have because you are obviously someone who's not going to be intimidated by a woman's income, but it is a fact that when a woman, even within a marriage, when a woman begins to out earn a man, the divorce rate spikes. When I say a lot of these feminists that have been indoctrinated to, the 9 or 10 other mindsets that come with liberalism and feminism and no accountability, they say, oh, that's because the guy couldn't handle her.
Yes.
When I think there's some more digging down that needs to be done there, because usually when it comes to the way we've evolved to be the way we are, I am perfectly accepting of the fact that women want men who can provide for them or have a higher propensity to provide than they do, because women have to nurse children for many years of their life, especially before there was birth control. And so I don't hate women. I just understand them, right? I understand. And I'm not going to, once I understood that, I understood why even women without children prefer men who are ambitious. And they aren't gold diggers for it. They just have evolved to be that way, right?
Correct.
So I think it'd be unwise for some men to chalk it completely off the ego. Granted, there are some men with ego. I think that I did read that, I think it was like men who do more household chores get less sex, or vice versa. There was some correlation between how many of what traditionally is a woman's duties a man does in sex, and how women, if you read between the lines, women use that to control the man's behavior. If he's paying all the bills, if you don't hold frame in the relationship, it's going to become transactional, and she's going to have you in the palm of her hand, and you have to start doing all the dishes and all the laundry and doing all the man shit, like the changing out the oil to the car, mowing the lawn. And then eventually it's like, what does she do now? You know? And I think that there at some level, there is a loss of respect for men that earn less than women. And they're not going to, what woman is going to say is going to be introspective enough to, like, you know, if you were to, which no man does, are you going to treat me any differently, you know, than you did, you know, your last ex who you said was narcissistic, but earned all that money, you know, do you think you're going to treat me any differently since, like you said, I earn half what you do? No woman's going to be like, you know, I might look down on you a little bit and you probably won't get sex as much as he did, but, you know, and it'll come out in a passive aggressive way because my friends are going to nag me about it. Like, they just don't have the foresight and introspection usually, or transparency to say those kind of things. Whereas when it does manifest in their behavior. And yeah, I mean, people will
I will agree with that. And that's kind of what I'll add on to that, bro, because like what I was going to get at was like, if you're going to do that as a man, just be prepared that it will usually end up, and I say this lightly just because I'm sure that there's people out there that it worked out very well and stuff like that. But in my own experience and stuff like that, I even going into these relationships, checking my own ego and being confident in the things that I provided and put it down. Like, there were things that when I provided, we didn't break up for those aspects. We never even fought about the things that I was excelled at. We fought about the things that, well, it was generally like commitment issues and stuff like that, which I'm not big on having kids. I'm not big on getting married. So I understand that totally. With that said, I was also very open about that from the beginning. And oddly enough, later on, it became a problem, which I think that men and women both do it. But to add to your point, you're absolutely right, is like, ultimately, I will say that eventually it will become a problem. Whereas for a male, we are way more likely, if we're making money, we'll date a chick that works at McDonald's and like build her up and stuff like that. And that's not to say that women won't build a man up. It's just that their tether is much more shorter. Their patience for it is a lot shorter. And maybe these women just dated one time lower than their level. But to add to you, devil's advocate, I will agree that women generally have a certain level that they will allow, and then once they either learn from it or they don't have the best of experiences, they won't stoop to that level anymore. And that like you said, it will not. It will 9 times out of 10, I will confidently say that it will come up as a problem eventually. And I even said to all the women that earn more than me, I would say this could potentially become a problem. And then when we were splitting, I told him, I said, I bet that if I made more money, you'd probably put up with more than what you did.
Yeah.
And I stand by that because I truly feel that. And to be honest with you, it comes back to financial stability. I'm not hating on him for it. That's totally fine.
Yeah.
If you want to do that, that's cool. You know what? If I want to do it, I'll level up. If I want to level up and I want a woman that gets successful, I'll level up. If I don't, then I'll go ahead and roll with what I got. But a lot of it comes with confidence. You got to build that confidence, guys. Like, I'm telling you, just excel at the things you're good at. If you like playing guitar, go and woo these women with your guitar skills, but you better not stop playing that guitar because she's going to bring that out. Why don't you play the guitar for me so much? I used to love that. They will bring it out on you. So just be aware. Just be aware of that, man. Be aware of that.
And that's why I worded it so carefully. I can tell you have enough RP knowledge to not be the guy that's completely chucked. Yeah, it's all the men and their egos, and you're like little
Because
Foucault
I
said
honestly,
so.
bro, I want to give dude, I love women. I want to give them as much credit, and if they want to become successful, that's totally fine. If I want to find a successful woman, I've learned my lesson. So now, if money mattered that much to me, I'd go out and get the bag, like everybody says. But like those things aren't as big to me, and I know that I could find a beautiful woman because a lot of for men, I feel like, and women. I think a lot of it starts with aesthetics and like but more with men because you can see a woman that they call gold diggers. She'll be with an ugly dude that makes a bunch of money.
Of course.
Whereas, how many men have you seen be with a 70-year-old millionaire woman?
Yeah.
It doesn't
Yeah, it's like
happen very often.
ask how
It
many men
doesn't
our
happen.
age that look like us would date Oprah Winfrey, and then ask how the same
Correct.
demographic of women, how many of them would date Denzel Washington. And I almost said
Exactly.
like Idris Elba, but then I'm
Exactly.
like, all right, he's a 2 in shape. Let's go with Denzel Washington. You know?
And Denzel Washington's a stud too. So
Yeah,
you're actually giving them the more benefit of
Yeah.
the doubt. But I'll tell
yeah.
you right now, I'm not putting up with Oprah's bullshit.
Oh no.
I'm not putting
Well,
up with it.
and again, like this is a sad reality: is Mother Nature forces women to get their shit together sooner, and then there's a deadline. Whereas with us, we could be broke and I don't want to say a felon because that's pretty lasting, but we could go bankrupt 7 times and then at 40 hit it big with real estate and crypto. By 44, have our pick of the
Bro,
litter.
to add to
Let me
that really quick,
Okay.
you brought up the little felon thing. Oh, go ahead.
Mhoop, I'll come back to you, Mhoop. I just want to include TieGame Michael. I know TieGame Michael. What do you think? I want to add on to the discussion. What do you think about dating successful women and about women losing respect if they date a man that's in the lower level? What do you think about that, TieGame?
As far as dating successful women, I encourage that. I see absolutely nothing wrong with that. Everything work out as long as y'all on the same page,
Mm-hmm.
and that's very, very important. If you do happen to be dating a woman that makes more money than you, it's not an issue if y'all on the same page. It's not an issue if even though she makes more money than you, that she still respects you as a man on the relationship. The issue is that a lot of times that's not the case. A lot of times that don't happen, and you'll always find that out whenever you have an argument.
Mm-hmm.
When you have those arguments, that's when those real feelings come out. That's how they tell you how they really feel about you. You're not getting money, mother. But I definitely encourage that. And the women that I date, I make more money than them. I don't know if I ever dated a woman that made more money than me, but I wouldn't have an issue with it. Especially if we got the same goals, the same vision. And if anything, it may motivate me to go even harder than I'm going. So we can really make some things happen. So that's how I feel about dating successful women. What was the second part of the question you asked? You asked 2. You asked that. What was the second one?
My other question: do you think women who make a lot of money, do you think they can really respect a man in that relationship? Because I think one of the conversations that Mhoop 234 and Devil had, biologically for women, in their nature they want to date men in the same level higher. So they want a man they can look up to respect. Sometimes when women look down on a man that's in their lower level, it's hard for them in their nature to look up to him because she's doing better than him. So I think for a lot of women, whether they're conscious or unconsciously, they might start losing respect for you over time. And but do you think it's possible for a woman to be successful and date a man that's lower than her and still respect him as the masculine, strong leader in a relationship? But what do you think about that?
See, I like to look at life as percentages, right?
Yeah.
Absolutely. There's women out there that can make more money than you and respect you and still respect you as the man in the relationship. But I do find that percentage to be way smaller.
Mm-hmm.
Gotcha.
Because at the end of the day, a lot of them already feel they don't need you. If she making more money than you, she definitely gonna feel like she don't need you.
Mm-hmm.
She gonna be like, I ain't gotta put up with this, right?
Correct. You're right.
Like I said, everything is about percentages. The majority of them, absolutely not. Can you find one? Of course. Is it a needle in a haystack? Yes.
Mm-hmm.
That's just how I feel about that.
All right, no worries, no worries. And then Mhoop 34, I know you wanted to add on something real quick. Did you want to add it on real quick?
No, I was just gonna say real quick that like TieGame said, and like Devil's Advocate, if you're gonna do that, first of all, just be aware that you're gonna be treading on ice all the time. And I was aware with that after a certain amount of time. And also, like, if you are gonna tread into those waters, like I said, excel at the things you're good at. Like when I was dating these women, they knew that if somebody came in the house, I was the first line of defense. Women generally want a leader to lead them. When we were going through a crowded area, like if we showed up to a bar, she's walking behind me, I'm holding her hand, I'm leading her through the crowd. Everybody's getting out of my way. So if you're going to do that, like show initiative, like show confidence. Like if somebody whistled at her, I'm turning around and throwing eyes at whoever it is. And 9 times out of 10, them dudes ain't going to do anything about it. It's just what you're willing to do and stuff like that. And to be honest, those are things that are going to, like, I guess, like turn on a woman or be like, okay, well, at least I'm protected. Little things like that. I cooked for my ladies. I cooked for them. You know, the piece was always on my side so I can keep it cocked and loaded. You know, different things like that you have to learn to excel at, that you can excel at. And that will actually buy you more time. But like you guys are saying, it's a slippery slope. But if you're a guy like me, who my first priority is not necessarily to have kids or get married, then I'm not against getting married or having kids. It's just that that's not my first priority. So I rolled through with that and excelled at the things that I knew that I could.
No worries, no worries. Thank you for sharing that, Mhoop 234. Yeah, before I pass it to Taniela, thank you for jumping on and be part of the podcast. I mean, I think for me, I'm always attracted to feminine women, but based on my conversations with a lot of the men in the past, on past podcasts who did date successful women, one of the things they always express is sometimes when they date women who are very successful, they still expect him to be masculine all the time. But when it comes to them, it's conditional. So they want to be feminine on certain times, and then they want to be masculine at certain times. And you guys brought up a great point. When it comes to the arguments and disagreements and making decisions in the family, a lot of times the successful women, they would, bring that up. You know what? I make more money. I'm better than you. Because sometimes I think our traits should complement each other, but I think if both parties are masculine, it becomes a very competitive environment. And I know for a lot of women who takes to be successful, they have to be competitive. So sometimes when you have that relationship, oftentimes when it comes to those disagreements, that competitive nature comes out, especially when it comes to the arguments and the disagreements. And I think that can cause a lot of issues where a more feminine woman will be more cooperative and be more willing to be more submissive to her man. But that's just the feedback I get from a lot of the men who dated successful women in the past is they still want us to be traditionally masculine, but then for them, it's conditioned. Their femininity is only conditional. They want to be good feminine at certain types of relationship, but then certain types of relationships, they want to take control and be the masculine part of the relationship, and that can cause a lot of issues.
Let me add on to that real quick if you don't mind.
Go ahead.
That's definitely not going to work. And I never understood that mindset, because as a man, I can't pick and choose when to be masculine and when to protect you. Yeah. I can't decide one day, like, you know what, I'm going to protect you if somebody run up in here. But then the next week, you be like, somebody ran in the house. You know what, baby? Go see what that noise was. Yeah. They will lose all type of respect for you instantly. Yes. You don't get to pick and choose.
Correct.
But like you said, they like to pick and choose when to be feminine and all that.
Yeah.
And you just supposed to be cool with it.
Exactly.
I just always found that interesting. But go ahead.
Yeah, that's just my feedback. That's my feedback from the men that I've talked to that date successful women. But they expect them to be traditional all the time. Take them on dates, pay for the dates, provide and protect them, show chivalry, be a good man. But then when it comes to like leadership and having those discussions where the relationship's going to take with the family, then they want to, play that masculine role, and they don't want to be feminine no more, especially if they're very competitive, very successful. So, but yeah, thank you, fellas. I'm gonna move on to the next topic. I think this is a very important conversation to have. I think somebody asked me this question on Instagram, and I want to bring it up for you guys. Do you guys for today, for men to be in a relationship with a woman, do you guys think it's important for a man to know exactly the type of woman that he wants to be with, right? Especially today, where there's so many women who have different ideologies, different dynamics. You know, traditionally back in the past, men were masculine, women were feminine, and that was the majority of the dynamic relationship. But now today, we have the partnership dynamic relationship. We have the conditional femininity. I think TieGame brought up conditional roles, type of relationships. So there's different types of relationships, or different type of roles that we often see today. So me personally, I believe that if you want to, for a guy, if you want the best chance, I think we talk about percentages and numbers. If you're a very masculine man, that you work on yourself to be a good man, I think it's best interest to find a woman that complements your traits. Would that be a feminine woman? But yeah, I think one of the things that we find out for a lot of men today is sometimes they choose to date the woman who makes a lot of money, successful, masculine woman with independent energy. I don't need a man type of mentality and energy, or type of woman. You know what? They don't believe in biological roles, so this is my. So oftentimes these guys have to find out the hard way to kind of figure out these women, and they find out, okay, I found out these are the type of women I don't like. Maybe this is the type of woman that's going to be better for me to complement me, my lifestyle, and my traits as a man. So yeah, so I want to ask you that question. Like, do you think it's more than important today for men to know what type of woman that they want to date before they go into a relationship, instead of just going into it and figure out the hard way? What's your thoughts about that? And I'll start off with the newest guest who just jumped on. Thank you, Taniela, for jumping on. I know we had this discussion before, but what do you think about that, Taniela? Do you think it's important for men today if they want to go into a
daytime? Where you at?
Yeah, he's in New Zealand. Okay. all the way different parts of the world. But Taniela, do you think it's important for a man today? Do you know what type of woman he wants to date before he goes in a relationship?
Me personally, not necessarily. The type and quality of a woman is not really a robust metric for any sort of man to put in front of him as something to gauge women with. I think personally we've spoken on this very on a vast majority of the podcast. Be an accountable man, be a resilient man, be a disciplined man. Whatever type of woman you come across, they're all fair game. You'll figure it out the way you go. I think a lot of men nowadays are so risk averse that when they look at metric and use metric of other men's experiences, it sort of scared them off the dating market. Okay, I won't marry young because, my good friend who's a good buddy of mine, we've grown up, he's gone through a rough divorce. He's essentially getting booted up the ass by the court system and all these things. But for me, it's like, as a man, I get excited, and I get excited at the delusional mentality that women have. Why? Because it only adds value to me. The more that I improve and I look at the world in a manner where, okay, you are the feminist woman that you are, I've got to figure out how to play the game just as well. No longer are the days where you drop the handkerchief and I have to pick it up and approach you. Now you've got your own career, you're a strong, independent woman. How can I figure out this game in a way where I walk away adding more value to me, essentially? I think we shouldn't, as men, we shouldn't look for what makes it easy. Obviously, that's going to optimize our choices. But I've always been a numbers man. Date as many women as you have to, so that you can figure out where your boundaries are. And then from there, manage your expectation. As soon as you say, if you feel like you're ready for a relationship, you want to settle down, have kids, the first thing you put on the table is, here are my boundaries. Here are the things I'm willing to compromise with. If you're not ready to, commit to the level of character that I have and what my boundaries are, that's fine. Let's not waste time. Let's move forward. You go do your thing, I'll go do mine, and so be it. So we're not going to learn what type of woman we like if we don't date them. Because a lot of women, especially when they come on the podcast, they will say all these things that they truly believe in, but that's because they're on a podcast. They're not out in the dating market. They're not romantic. This is not a romantic environment. So the same woman that I argue with on these podcasts, when I jump on, if I was to meet her on the dating marketplace, she would bend her knees. The type of man that we talk about and the brutal honesty that we have as men in a podcast, it seems misogynistic, it seems sexist and all these things, until they sit across the same man in front of a dating table and he says the exact same thing and she goes, wow, this guy's not afraid to lose the pussy, essentially, and pardon my French. I need that guy because I know where exactly I'm going to be with him. But not only that, there's a level of mystery to a man who is quite brutally honest. For women, they think when we say certain things, it's a code or hint. So there's an earlier example that I used was that most men say to women, I'm not ready to commit. I just want to have fun. Even the average guy would say these things. But vast majority of women, when they hear that, it's game on. I need to nag. I need to bitch. I need to do whatever it takes to get this man's commitment. When all it is for us, it's simple as that. We're not ready to commit. If we are, we'll let you know, but we're not. And women will go years holding on to the same man who says the same thing every month, every year. Hey, I'm not ready to commit. If you want to leave, you can leave. But if you're having fun and you want to continue this, this is how it is. So, before I sort of went along that little bit of spiel, men should not look for easy. We should look for what makes life difficult. Why? Because there are a lot of great values that we pick up. And not only that, it changes our frame. The way we look at the world is a lot more, for me personally anyway, I look at the world in a manner where, say, my wife's going through some very tough medical processes at the moment. And if I seeked out my life to be as easy as I thought it could be, I would have probably sunk myself into alcohol and drugs. But I usually share this with my wife. I hope you don't take my calmness as that I'm incapable of feeling emotions. It's just that you're probably already filled up with emotions right now. You're probably going through the scenarios of you could be here tomorrow or not. I need to hold frame, and I need to be your anchor, and I need to be the anchor for our children. So if anything does happen, I'm going to stand there and hold this thing together. So, yeah, that's my thought on it. Don't look for easy. Date as many women as you can possibly can, and then figure it out from there. I'm not saying be promiscuous and go out and have sex with every woman that you can get. Date with intention, manage your expectation, and from there build your boundaries, because you won't know until you try.
All right. No worries, Taniela. Thank you for sharing it. For sharing that part. Let me pass it to TieGame. TieGame, what do you think? Do you think men should know exactly what type of woman he wants, or do you think he should just go out there based on the very things that we discussed, the pros and cons of the dating market today and the legality? Do you think that men should just go out there and date and figure it out on their own? What do you think?
I think that men should have a general ideal of what they want, and that men should also know exactly what their deal breakers are. Is it Taniela? Is that how you pronounce that?
Taniela.
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 Okay, yeah. Okay. Yeah, but for the most part, he pretty much hit it right on the head. But I would say that you should have a general ideal, and most importantly, know your deal breakers, know your boundaries. And at this point in our lives, I believe that we all kind of know what we want in a relationship at this particular point. We know what we're willing to bend on. We know what we're going to stand 10 toes down on at this particular point in our lives. And you pretty much just got to find somebody that fits enough, into what you want, that's going to make you want to continue a relationship with this person. You also got to understand that nobody's perfect. People be going around looking for these perfect partners, and they probably really ain't out there. I'm real big on the 80-20 rule. Like, if a person got 80% of what you're looking for, are you going to get rid of them because, she can't cook pancakes? I love pancakes, but if she got everything else that I like and she can't cook pancakes, am I going to get rid of her for that? Probably not. Right. So as long as your boundaries, you know what you're gonna stand 10 toes down on, you know what you absolute loyalty to me is very important. Shoot, you got you a woman that's 100% loyal. It's a lot of things that we can work on that may be a little bit shaky. You understand what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But you just got to know who you are as a person, know who you is as a man. Don't lie to yourself as a man. Because if you lie to yourself, then that's definitely gonna end bad. Just know what you want and kind of look for it. But Tanaya, he pretty much hit all that. And I apologize if I keep mispronouncing your name, and I may just have to call you T. But you feel me? But yeah, that's all I really got to add about that.
No worries. Thank you for sharing that TieGame. Just to respond to your 80-20, I read a recent study. If I find the link, I'll post in the live chat. But he asked men, if you found a woman that met 80% of what you wanted, would you marry her? And the majority of men said yes. Then he asked the women, if you met a guy that had 80% of what you want, would you marry them? Do you know what the women said?
No.
No.
That's a shame.
So I mean, hey, that's just it was an interesting study to read, and but that's just the dating culture that we have today. So, but let me pass it to you, Mhoop 34. 234. What do you think? Do you think the men today should know exactly what type of woman he wants, or do you think you just go out there and figure it out through our life experience? What do you think?
Life experience, because what's gonna happen is like if you, I've been there. If you went there and you started like nitpicking and saying this person is not gonna, you're gonna end up either getting left or you're gonna leave that person. It's gonna be catastrophic. Absolutely. I mean, in my opinion, like there's no swaying even on that. And what's funny is that there will be people out there that are going to say, nope, I'm sticking to, my goals and this is what it is. And life's too dynamic for that, straight up. And you're going to lose, you're going to end up losing. So if you don't become somewhat open-minded, you're going to get your heart broken or you're going to end up breaking somebody's heart. And to be honest with you, it doesn't feel good on being either side of those fences. It really doesn't. And I don't care like if people want to sit there and be like, oh, I'd rather break somebody's heart than get mine heartbroken. Yeah, well, the problem is like you might have the leg up, but if you have any sort of conscience, you're going to feel bad. And if you don't feel bad, then you're probably a piece of shit, straight up. So like, the truth is like you need to go, like if you're going to date and look for your partner, if you're looking to get married and you're going in there going like, well, this person needs to only be part of my criteria, you're most likely a piece of shit, honestly, because first of all, you don't have enough life experience to understand that that's not how things go. And second of all is like, chances are you're probably going to get hurt. It's like how mainly the women go like, oh, who hurt you? You're going to end up being that person because like you're going to be angry. It's like those people that sit there and say like, I'm superior to the opposite sex. Okay, well, who hurt you? Because at the end of the day, I'm not buying that. And with the confidence that I can possess, there's nobody on this earth that like, and see, this is a major difference because like, personally, we all probably have seen those videos where they'll ask women, rate yourself 1 to 10. And most of them, they sit there and they say they're 10s. And the problem is, first of all, they're not. And and their first reasoning for being that way is they'll be like, well, what's wrong with me believing in myself to the point where I'm 10? There's nothing wrong with that. The problem is if you walk around claiming that you're a 10, you're going to get your heart broken by somebody who's probably a 4 or 5 because I've seen it so many times. Like, and I can do it. Most of those people are 5s. And if I really wanted to, I could go break their hearts. But you need to be aware enough to know that that can happen in your environment. If you walk around and sit around and be like, I'm a 10, you're not even being realistic. And the interviewers would get smart and be like, well, if 10 is perfect,
Perfect.
and you're not, and like you want room for you. Do you agree you have room for improvement? Yes, I could improve. Well, then why are you a fucking 10? Straight up, like, I'm not buying the whole, listen, you can be a 5 and rate yourself a 7 or an 8 just because you have belief in yourself. There's nothing wrong with that. And actually, people would probably respect you more for being that way. But the truth is, if you walk around acting like you're a 10, you're going to get your heart broken, or you're going to end up with children you didn't mean to raise, or you're going to end up in a divorce or something like that. Like, and that's not to say that these things don't happen outside of being that way. I'm just saying is like those kind of like, and that's a truly toxic mindset, is to sit there and not humble yourself. Because when you're a person who doesn't feel you need to humble yourself, you're going to get humbled. I mean, a lot of these things are so cut and dry with a lot of this stuff. And I'm sitting there going like, these women will run around saying they're a 10. And that's great to have self-esteem. I'm all for it, love. Like, go out there and have self-esteem and kill it and get your little, your little Michael Kors bag and run around in your Mercedes and do all those cool things. That's great, love. But at the end of the day, you can get your heart broken as a 3 on the street. And that's just how I've seen it. I've had it happen. That's just what it is. And so one thing is like, when I walk around and I say, oh, I could get any woman I want, that's with humbleness, because I would have to put in the absolute work to get the partner that I want, or any woman that I want. That's knowing that it might not always happen my way. But if I put enough amount and energy towards it, there, that might happen. But at the end of the day, I can sit there and go, well, you know what? If I didn't, then maybe I just didn't. Maybe I just wasn't. I didn't measure up enough, or for whatever reason. I can be realistic about that. But we have an influx of women that are running around and that are saying like, I got money, I got this, I got that. And like I said earlier in the cast, it's like a lot of these things are going to come up a little bit later in the years when life actually smacks them upside the head and goes, damn, you didn't expect that coming. You didn't expect your business to go bankrupt. Now you're going to have to deal with that. And so, that's a really important aspect of life to take advantage of and learn and be humble and learn from other people that are trying to give you wisdom and stuff like that.
All right, no worries. Mhoop 234. There's a word for those women who are 4 or 5. They think they're 10. It's called delusional.
Absolutely.
All right. Let me pass it to you, Devil. What do you think, Devil? I know a lot of the numbers and studies. I'm interested to hear your perspective as far as men just going out there and figure it out through experience, or should they be more aware of the statistics and the data out there that's shown the outcomes of dating these types of women? What do you think about that? Should men know what type of women they want to date before they go into a relationship?
They most definitely should. I've heard the theory thrown around. I don't know where it originally came from, but that a man should have a body count of no lower than X or Y. Some people say it's 20, some say it's 50 before they settle down for a serious marriage or relationship. And I think it might be different for every man. Like, you need a certain level of experience with women to avoid manipulation, especially when it's this dangerous politically and via laws, or even socially. Like, maybe you don't go to jail, but your reputation's ruined. Maybe you don't get fired from your job, but you're no longer under consideration for a promotion because you just have the stigma attached to you. So, men have a lot to lose. And that might be the Achilles heel of a lot of men out there. They're heavy hitters in their career. They keep it together financially, physically, they're in great shape, but they just don't have time for women. And then, end up having one use them or use sex to control them and mess with their head. And then the other parts of their life they were doing so well and start to unravel. And I don't see many other ways outside of very strict adherence to a Old Testament religion than just raw experience with women to prevent that kind of behavior. And risk on the man's side. Whereas with women, it's the exact opposite. You know, they have to preserve their value. After a certain amount of trauma, I feel like they're not able to have kind of just a raw, unjaded love for a man. It's always tempered with, okay, wait a minute, you know, yeah, the last guy who screwed you over made a good first impression too. Let's put him through the ringer. Let's put him through more tests. Let's make him jump through more hoops, you know, until it ends up being a bad deal for him. So, yes, I do think men need a certain level of experience with women to better mitigate their risk in relationships.
All right, no worries. Thank you so much for sharing that, Devil. And a quick shout out to everybody in the live chat. Thank you so much. Underground Roads, I see you in the live chat. Thank you so much for jumping on and being part of the live chat. I saw you posted Kevin Samuels, rate yourself. Shout out to the case late Kevin Samuels. But yeah, a lot of women out there who think they're 10s. And Jolix, good to see you in the live chat. Said, what up, buddy boys? Hey, thank you so much, Jolix, for being on the live podcast and watching. Like, of course, everybody out there, don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel. If you love the content, of course, drop a comment. Let me know what you guys think, whether you agree or disagree. But let me pass it to the fellas real quick. I have one final topic to discuss tonight. This actually was a message that was DM'd to me by one of the ladies. This is one, I think you guys are also talked about it earlier on the podcast. You talked about how the quality of women has changed today. And there's a lot of women out there who are not worthy or the type of woman that a man would want to commit to, and especially if they're a good man and they want to raise a family. So I want to ask you fellas, what type of women out there, because that's always a question a lot of ladies who are part of my podcast or who watch my channel, they ask me, like, what type of women that do men want to marry and commit to long term? Because oftentimes I do see a lot of women who think they deserve marriage, or they think they deserve the high quality man or the man that they wish or they dream about. But then I see from the traits that I see and how they move in real life, I can tell, oh, that's why the men are probably not giving in a relationship. And obviously nobody's conveying that the real criticism to her to understand that about herself. So obviously sometimes I think I do see for men, we get judged harshly if we are not attractive, if we can't attract men. We can't attract women. You know, the society and the world tells us straight up, either we learn by failure or the world will tell us as men what our failures are, and they don't really care about our problems. As men, we have to take that criticism, learn, grow, and move on and become better men. But oftentimes, you know, women don't get that same criticism. It's very, they try to literally give them a good, they try to soften the criticism. And a lot of times women don't know if the very things that they bring in a relationship or the behaviors that they exemplify are the reasons why a lot of men are not coming their way. So I just want to ask you guys real quick, just keep it real on this podcast. Like you guys, what your real thoughts are. Why do you think for everybody out there, like what types of women or what qualities in women that most men are not going to commit to, and most men are not going to take seriously, and they will not give them a marriage long term? So I'll start with you. Devil. Devil, what do you think?
I would say if I had to give you three, if you're talking LTRs and marriage, definitely promiscuity, combativeness.
Like, hold on, promiscuity. What do you mean by that exactly? Like cheating?
Yeah, that's
or?
true. That's true. That's a good point. No, it increases the likelihood of cheating.
Correct.
And marriage is dissolving. But
maybe the way she acts.
I don't think scientists really even know, like, body count comes with it, because there's a correlation between marital success rate and body count, but that's not it. Like, if you took women that, I'm sure there are women out there that have had 2 to 5 bodies and want to get married, and maybe they're going to get married to their next partner, but they also have an OnlyFans, or all three, they didn't have sex maybe until they were 20, like their senior year in college for some reason. Maybe their parents sent them to a Catholic school or all girls school, but then their first 3 or 4 were all one night stands, and they feel like they have catching up to do, So there's a ton of little X factors at play that make promiscuity worse. And I don't think you'll ever be able to distill it down to a science, but men know it when they see it, especially ones who have, like I said before, experience with women.
Mm-hmm.
it's just kind of a gut feeling. And you have to be able to gauge whether, like, if you're a guy with a lot of game, like you're well traveled, you're well spoken, you can have girls laughing all night. You might be able to sleep with a girl on the first night that normally is a nice, good, conservative girl. And you have to be able to tell whether it's a hoe in disguise or is just a charge it to your game, And I think the men with a game like that can tell the difference, and it comes out in time. They're not going to propose in the first 3 months and then oh shoot, it was a hoe in disguise. Like guys like Kevin Samuels wouldn't have been tricked by something like that.
The GOAT.
Yep. Rest in peace.
Rest in
the
peace.
Godfather. But yeah, that third one. I mean, those are a big two. I would say that there's drop off after promiscuity, and someone's going to say one and I'm gonna be like, damn, yeah, I should have said that. But hygiene is big for me too. Like if a girl, like stinks or has armpit hair or just hygiene issues. Like I really like a girl with good hygiene and everything that entails. So,
Okay.
But yeah, I think the big two are promiscuity and, what was the other one that I said? We touched on promiscuity a lot.
Okay. All right.
Yeah, what was the first one I said before promiscuity?
Combativeness, I think.
Combativeness.
Combativeness, yep, that's huge. Yep, argumentativeness, combativeness, that ties into femininity, submissiveness, cooperation. It's pretty much the same thing. Combativeness.
Okay. All right. Thank you for sharing that, Devil. Let me pass it to you, TieGame, Michael. What do you think? What do you think of qualities or types of women that most men, they will still have sex with you, but they won't commit to you and they won't give you a relationship?
I think if a man feels that you're unloyal, he definitely won't commit to you. As a man, no other man should be able to have one up on me with you and actually be telling the truth. I would say that getting slutted out is definitely one of the main ones, which kind of goes with what Devil's Advocate saying, because like he said, that does lead to getting slutted out a lot of times. And having an issue with you being the man in the first place, thinking that by you wanting respect is that you're controlling, just because I want you to respect the relationship or respect what we going on is controlling, right? And I see that a lot. Calling you insecure for reasons that you're not insecure about, right? It's like, oh, so what I got a dude in my phone and I'm sending him tit pics. What you tripping about? Right. It's just all types of stuff like that. So I would say not being disloyal, getting slutted out, not allowing the man to be the man in the relationship, which I guess kind of goes with combativeness. That's the thing that you can really make a whole show on that. Well, that's what I'm very big on working out and staying fit. I work out a lot. I stay fit. I got my twins. They only 2 years old, but I have them working out all the time, so that'll be another big thing for me too.
You can't accept body positivity, TieGame, Michael?
You said what?
Huh?
I look, people can do whatever they want to do, but when people start talking about being in a relationship with you and what it's going to take to actually be with you, that's when the game change. You understand what I'm saying? So whatever you want to do with your life, that is completely fine. But when you start coming over here and we start talking about being together and start being a unit, then we're gonna have some certain parameters put in place, and that's a big thing on me. You know what I'm saying?
All right, no worries. All right, thank you so much.
That's the type of life I live. I live that type of life, so of course I would want my woman to live that type of life as well. I'm not asking nothing that I'm not doing myself. So,
all right. No worries. Thank you so much for sharing that. And I think Underground Road said some women will keep a man to the next best thing comes along to elevate her. All right. Thank you for sharing that. I'll pass it on to you, Taniela. Taniela, what do you think? Why do you think? What types of women or what qualities of women do men avoid getting into a relationship with?
Well, these I'm going to attack this from a completely different angle. Most women who have a healthy outlook on what men are and what they should be doing in terms of relationship and their roles and responsibility, those women act accordingly to how they are naturally, and they attract men, and they attract good, decent men. I'm not saying some of them, vast majority of them attracted men, but they are in the ballpark of what men look for in general. Usually these questions are asked by your strong, independent, feminist woman who prefers respect over love from a man, who's hyper competitive in the professional realm, so she's exposed to a high level caliber of men. So whatever advice that we give out in terms of this question isn't going to be helpful to these type of women. Why? Because they are hyper focused on the 1 to 2% of men, essentially. So the only advice that I would give to those type of women is build a time machine. That is your only bargain for the type of men that you'll want to attract, is to go back in time and be the young, fertile woman that you are. You are competing as a woman in that high level of sexual marketplace. You're competing with other women who are probably younger than you. And regardless of whatever value you bring to the table, you have to be an exceptional woman to attract the type of man that you are attracted to. So unfortunately, for when we talk about women who are hyper successful, there's nothing a man can do to attract her. She's become hyper focused on the level of man that we consider as the high value man who belongs to the 1 to 2%. So usually those type of guys have their pick of the litter, which is what Devil speaks on. So unless you've got a time machine in your basement that you can travel back and reverse your age, you're at a bad spot. Why? Because there are good men out there, but most of them, exist within the average, what we consider the average type of man, who's probably earning less than 6-figure, but will give it a good damn shot. He knows his responsibility. He knows to protect and to provide. However, you make a lot more than he does. So unfortunately, if you have, as a woman, if you have to ask this question, you have to really hit your ego and pride and know that if you are to attract a man, it's probably not going to be the 1 to 2%. It's probably, you're going to have to settle. And by settling, you're going to have to give up that power that made you hyper successful in an arena where it's a vast majority of it is dominated by other men. That's your only luck. Otherwise, if you want to end up being alone and be strong and independent to the very end, go for it. But these advice that we're giving, usually women who know who they are in terms of what they bring to the table, have a good and healthy level of respect for men and what they do and what they bring to the dynamic. It's not a metric of superiority, whether men are superior or women are superior. It's just they understand what we as men bring to the table, and they understand what they do, and vice versa. So those women are usually in good luck, and they're usually are found by good men, and they're in good long-term relationship with children of their own. But if you're a woman and you're having to ask this question, what kind of value or what kind of behavior that I should align with to attract a good, strong man, you're really sort of walking the fine line of whether you're going to end up choosing the man that you're going to be with or settling. And unfortunately, they are hyper focused on the 1 to 2%, and most of their metric are drawn from those type of men.
Okay, all right, no worries. Thank you for sharing that, Taniela. And I'll pass it to you, Mhoop 234. What do you think, man? What do you think? A lot of women asked me that question on my Instagram. They said, what types of women or qualities in women that most men don't want to go into a relationship with?
Well, first of all, like it's crazy because to me, like, in my opinion, women are the most beautiful creatures on earth, in my opinion. And like, it's such a shame to see what it's turned into. And so like, when I see the things that I become unattracted to, that I don't want to. But like, first things is like combativeness. Like if she wants to sit there and argue with you, she wants to sit there and like, and that's not to say that like men are always right and all this other shit like that, but like if she is combative by nature and she wants to either argue with you. And one thing that I noticed that's huge for me personally is I was raised with respect. And um, it is astounding to me that the majority of women that I've spoken with, had relationships with, no matter what, I will ask them how a specific question, and like the majority of these women have had some sort of physical altercation with their man. In my opinion, that is to me that is absolutely uncalled for. And I'll tell you why. Is like there are things that women are better at, and there are things that men are better at. Men are naturally physical creatures by nature. I'm sure we all could agree to that. And what I mean by that is like men, I don't care who you are, what beliefs you are, you're not going to argue with me that when it comes to physical strength, men are superior in that manner. Absolutely. It's just the way we were built. Okay. And so I can never imagine getting physical with with a woman that I was involved with, especially. And it boggles my mind to see and hear not only the amount of women that have been in a physical altercation with the man, but it boggles my mind to see the amount of women that are willing to put their hands on a man, knowing that a man physically can destroy them in any sort of, I don't care. Listen, I'm only like 150 pounds, but like Ronda Rousey might have a chance. She could probably get me in a chokehold. She could probably, put hands. But if I get her within physically and I put all my might into it, she's gonna have a hard time. And I'm not even MMA trained. So with that said, is like it boggles my mind to see certain women. Like I've had women that I've gotten into arguments with, and they raise their hand at me. Now none of them will ever have the ball. And now those women knew the kind of man that I was, and that knew that I was raised with respect, and that I would never put my hands on a woman. But if as a woman, if you were to put your hands on me, I like all I'm gonna do. You're going to the ground. I'm gonna hold you till you calm down. That's all I'm going to do. You need to stop hitting. You need to stop putting your hands on people that can physically overpower you in any position. So that boggles my mind and is a major turnoff when women are combative by nature, argumentative, and physical. And and that just really bugs me. And then another thing to tie on to what a couple guys said before is like promiscuity. Now, let's be honest, you guys. Like we now there are women that will go around and do things on purpose just to get a rise out of you. Okay, fine. But the minute that I do it in return, I don't want to hear shit. So like I've been in a relationship where this chick wanted to like get men's attention. Okay, fine. Listen, wear your little booty shorts. That's fine. It's attractive to me. I think it's hot. When we're done walking up and down the street with your little booty shorts, you want to do that? We're going to go home and I'm going to handle business. But at the end of the day, if you're doing it to get attention from other men and I can't walk around and get attention from other women, don't play me like a fool. And I'm not saying that I'm okay with that. I'm not saying that I'm okay with one-upping each other and doing all these things, which I'm actually not. And by nature, I shy away from all those things. And I've had a gym habit for years. I've been training for like 12 years. I still get unconscious by going to like a pool party and taking off my shirt because I don't want people to sit there and go, who's this guy think he is walking around with the physique that he has? And I'll just leave it at that. But I don't find it attractive when a woman does the same thing and sits there and does it just to get attention. If we go to a pool, by all means, love, go and put your little two-piece on, show what you got. But do it because you want to show off for me or your man. Do it because you feel sexy for your man or something. Don't do it because you want to feel sexy in front of all these other dudes and all this other thing, and then sit there and like do it for the attention. That's a major turnoff. And I'm not saying that all women do this. I'm just saying there's a small demographic that have done it, and I've ran into them. And then I would say like another thing is the gender roles. Like I keep bringing up, ladies, men don't want to hear about how you get the bag and that how you don't need a man, but you're still sitting there dating us, and you're still sitting there putting your heart out for us, but you want to sit there and just be like, hey, I don't need you, or I would be fine without you and stuff like that. Then what the fuck you doing dating us then? What you doing? Because clearly if you're dating somebody and you want to throw that out there, you're not dating for the right reasons, and you're going to end up getting your heart broken. That's the thing. It's like, it comes back to like, men are the undisputed champions of physicality. That's why men show their love a lot of times that women complain about. In my opinion, a lot of men show their love by the way that they make love to you, like by physical, by the whole sex thing. Like I literally enjoy being able to show my physical love to a woman. I try my best to make her sad, just as satisfied as I am. And it kills me when I hear other women be like, all my man he's just a dog, all he wants is sex. Maybe that's the only way that he feels confident in the way that he's showing you his love. And yes, there's a certain demographic that will sit there and be like, yeah, they're straight nymphos, or all they really do want is sex. But to be honest with you, like, I can't speak for those men. Like, all I can speak for is me. And with that said, I want to say, like, I haven't really ran into, when it comes to the physical side, I haven't really ran into it, but I've heard a lot about it, and I've seen couples go through it. And it's a shame, because I'm sitting there going like, if he puts up with your bullshitting and you getting emotional during your time of the month, or getting emotional because women are the undisputed chance of emotionals, or of emotions. Let's be honest, man. Like, I will admit that a woman will climb inside my head and take a shit on my brain and destroy me emotionally. They can do that. Equally, we have our own forms of, like, we're physical, but like, we don't get physical. But it's a shame that when I see men do that. But with that said is like, there are just differences that men and women excel at, and one of them is like, we don't want to hear how you can, like, when men cheat as opposed to women cheat. Women are genius when it comes to cheating. They can hide that shit real well. They can hide it much better than men can. And that's not to say that there's exceptions to the rule, but I've watched the way that women get, and I've watched the way that men get, and there's a big difference. So like the promiscuity, the whole, kind of I'm better than you vibe, and the physicality part of the things that just are kind of really big turnoffs. And they don't all possess that, but some of them have, and I've either experienced it or I've witnessed it. So yeah.
All right, no worries. Yeah, thank you for sharing that, Mhoop 234. And I know we have come to the conclusion of the podcast, but I had a question to ask TieGame and the Devil. I want to put you guys on the hot seat. This is a hot, controversial topic question. You guys ready for it?
Let's go.
So I have Black friends, and one of the things that we sometimes have conversations about dating women, especially when they talk about dating black women. Sometimes they talk about like a woman that's very loud. Like, what's her thought? What's her thoughts about that? Is that something like how do you perceive that as a man? That I think that's something that I had a conversation with. I just wanted to ask you guys, what do you think about that?
Oh, nose goes. I'm just kidding. Man, that's a good question. It's an interesting stereotype, but I mean, from my experience, I guess there has been some validity to it. But if you look at the women I've dated, like my high school was 80 to 85% white, but yet 2 of the 4 girls I dated were mixed, were my color or maybe a tad darker. So, I mean, I do tend to date, I guess that would say that I do tend to date black women. But the 2 that I did date, one is the one that I mentioned, the nurse practitioner specializing in cancer treatment. So very articulate, very successful, but also very feminine. She had brothers that she watched what they did to women, so that caused her to be very cautious in selecting men. She also had a dad who was similar. And then the other one was adopted by 2 white parents, very book smart, very open-minded, not very promiscuous at all. Got like a 33 on her ACT. Again, like super smart. She's well-spoken, probably better well-spoken than I am. So they weren't the loud type is what I'm saying. The two black girls that I have dated were nowhere near the stereotypical loud one. And, you know, I try to stay as far away from that kind of combative energy as possible. So from my experience, there was that group of people at my school, but again, I did not dabble with them. I physically am probably most attracted to people like with similar complexions as me. Like the most attractive women I've dated to me were my complexion. But only 2 of them passed enough of the screenings to make it a LTR or monogamous. So
No worries. What were your TieGame? Like, is that something that turns you off? If it's because I had that conversation before and just wanted to ask.
Ask the question again. You're asking if a loud woman turns me
Yeah,
off?
like yeah. If you meet a woman that's very loud,
yeah.
Is that something that can be a turn off for you?
And you asked about your experience in regards to the stereotype, if it applies.
Because I had that conversation with one of my because we were talking about this conversation right now, what attracts us, what doesn't cause us to commit. And he was telling me sometimes he meets women, especially when he
if you're talking in the sense of being like loud and rude and obnoxious and all that, then that's definitely a turn off. I definitely wouldn't say that that's something that's just predicated towards black women.
Of course.
You know, that'll be something that's predicated towards all women, but I have dealt with those types, and I didn't deal with those types for long because to me that's just unattractive and everything. So those never last too long once you kind of figure out that that's the type of time they on. You know, if that makes sense. You figure out what type of time somebody on, and you kind of be like, you know what, this ain't about to work. So I just leave people, you know, those type of people like that to their own devices and go on about my business pretty much when it comes to that. Because there's certain attributes that normally comes with certain things. So normally when you have an attribute like that, you know, you got the person that's combative. You got the person that'll try to fight you. You got the person that'll try to get you into some beef with their family members. If y'all get into it, you know, it's a lot of certain traits, and you know, of course, that don't go for every single one, but certain things do seem to carry certain traits in just women period. Like I said, that's not predicated to just you know, black women. So that
I'd like to add to that, especially being as like a white dude, like just put in my perspective on that real quick is like I understand where the stereotype kind of comes in, but I honestly believe that it's like a more cultural thing, right? So like what I've noticed is like um the parenting is a little bit louder. They're a little bit more vocal about how they say things, how they feel about their emotions and stuff like that. Like very strong and up forward. I mean, I've seen like there's super loud white chicks, and like they come from like these certain like little backgrounds, but I think that it might become stereotypical just because culturally, generally in my experience with my black friends and black people that I know, is like they're more open and vocal about like a lot of things. They'll generally bring out their emotion, or if there's a problem going on in the house, like like being in a white family, my white folks, they kind of a lot of times they swept it under the rug, and like we all just kind of tried to wake up the next day and everything would be good. And if we had to talk about it, we would talk about it. But what I've noticed, like with my black homies and friends and family, is that like the majority of them want to bring it out immediately. They want to talk about it. They want to get it through. And this is just my own experience with it. And like that's where I think the stereotype comes from, but it's not like I don't feel that it's all the way across the board with that said, but like I see where like because they're just a little bit more vocal and stuff like that, and that's just how I feel, which I understand. Like, don't get me wrong, like I'm all down to date a black chick by all means because I think that they're beautiful, but like at the end of the day, if she has a certain type of like way that she talks, it's not attractive to me. And I don't care if people want to call me for whatever they want to. We all have preferences. But at the end of the day, like if I it's like if you notice something, it's like if you find a woman and she acts more promiscuous, you wouldn't be as into her as you would be somebody who acts a little bit less. So if they're a little bit loud, I kind of shy away from that because I didn't really grow up with that kind of setting. So it doesn't appeal to me as much. But I understand, but I think a lot of it is like from what I've observed, just a cultural thing. And like it, and to be honest with you, a lot of these things are not either a pro or a con. Like it's a pro and a con to be that way. But also like to be honest with you, like in my opinion, black folks set a lot of trends. Like they set the music trends, they set the athlete trends and all that stuff. And if you notice, like black black athletes a little bit more loud and rambunctious than white athletes, if you notice. I mean, I watch a lot of football. Well, when touchdown dances came around, let's be honest, it was majority the black athletes that came out spiking the ball, doing team dances and stuff like that. So I think a lot of it is more of a cultural thing that is should be probably eventually come less stereotypical and more of a cultural aspect of how uh, black people are different from other races. Because like you wouldn't see, I haven't seen very many like Asian cultures be more outspoken. They're a lot quieter. They keep
Yeah,
all their stuff in. They internalize a lot of their stuff. Whereas
yeah,
white people can be on the fence and stuff like that. And Hispanics and blacks both, they can be a little bit more, for lack of a term, they can be rambunctious or a little bit more vocal about their emotions or what's going on in their life. And that's just been my experience.
And Polynesian women, they just physically beat you.
Yeah. Hey, but I'll tell you one thing. Polynesians, Samoans, Tongans, all these dudes, I'll tell you something about your culture, bro. You guys are some of the most loyal people that, out of all my friends. I grew up around a family of they were Samoans, and even though like Samoans and Tongans from their perspective like kind of warred and stuff like that with each other, you guys like by far are extremely loyal. You guys have large families, and you guys just like if I ever had a problem, it was my Samoan or Polynesian friends that were like, just give me a phone call, I'll be right there. and like the most loyal people I've ever met. And I've always admired that about your culture.
I had a Polynesian girl I talked to one time. She said that the only way for me to, I know I love you or respect you as a man, I have to feel like that you can physically beat me.
Red flag.
I was
Don't
like, okay.
fall for that trap.
I was like, oh,
Yeah, what
okay.
happens when she starts to question that?
Yeah, for
Come
real.
the hands.
No,
I don't
that
know.
was
Could I
Starts
take
to
them?
loke up.
I was like, okay, yeah, good to know. Just
Yeah.
But anyways, on the ground road said, how LOL, how much you bench pressing. Anyways, yeah, fellas, thank you so much for we come to the conclusion of the podcast. I think Too Wonderful just jumped on real quick. He said, my aunties had them David tool hands. I felt them when I was a kid. LOL. Fellas, thank you for jumping on tonight, having open discussions, whether we agree or disagree on certain things. Thank you for being open to have these tough conversations. But this was a great topic for tonight. But I want to conclude for you guys real quick. What's your final thoughts from tonight's podcast? What do you want to leave everybody, and how can people find you so that way they can follow you? I'll definitely drop the links below on the description of the video so they can find you and your platforms in the podcast that you guys also have. I'll start with you, TieGame Michael. What's your final thoughts, and how can people find you?
My final thoughts is I thought this was a very good podcast. Definitely glad I was able to be a part of it. Definitely enjoyed everybody that was on the panel. And there's any women out there watching this, like Mhoop said, we love women and everything like that. We was just talking about the topic that was put before us. Me personally, I'm not with the whole I don't need a woman, I don't need a man mindset that goes on. I feel that things can be better if y'all can get together and work it out. And you can find me everywhere at TieGame Michael. That's YouTube. I got a podcast channel over there on YouTube. I got some pieces of a podcast up, TieGame Michael. Instagram, TieGame Michael. Facebook page, TieGame Michael. TikTok, anything, TieGame Michael. And remember, people, regardless of what happens, the facts in life remains the same. There's no game but TieGame.
All right, for sure. That's fire right there. Thank you so much. I always appreciate jumping on for tonight. I pass it to you, Mhoop234. Final thoughts from tonight, and how can people find you?
I just appreciate you having me on, Will, and all you guys were super cool. I think that we had a pretty solid dialogue. I appreciate everybody's input. I learned some things. Hopefully I put out some good information, some fair information to both sides. With that said, I just have an Instagram. It's at Mhoop234, and that's it. And then I appreciate all you guys jumping on, and hopefully I can exchange dialogue with you guys in the future and stuff like that. And I hope that the dating game gets a little bit more solid, and that we can, come to terms with these ladies, and then they could come to terms with us to make things go a little bit smoother. Appreciate that. So thank you. Thanks for having me on.
No worries. Mhoop to TieGame, thank you for jumping on. And yeah, be ready. I'm gonna hit you guys back up with the mixed panel and join me with the debate with the women.
Do it.
I'll pass it to you, Devil. Final thoughts on how can people find you?
Yeah, I think it was a great conversation. I like seeing new faces up here, new ideas. Yeah, I'll throw my channel link in the back. I also have an Instagram, Devil's Advocate 304. I'm not on it much. I've probably posted maybe like 10 times, but but I do have a lot of I like looking, I'm not one to post like, hey, look at me, look what I'm doing. I live for, honestly, most of my selfies or stories are things that I grill in the summers. I get excited over food a lot. And memes, like my friends and I we have group chats where we'll just share some hilarious clips and memes and stuff. That's kind of what I use social media for. But yeah, and then I'll drop my YouTube channel link in the back chat. I don't live stream enough. I like to hop on this podcast and a couple select others. But I do have a good amount of videos that I put out during the winter. And I will be a lot more active going into this winter now that I got a steady schedule. So look out for those. There's a lot of analytics, a lot of facts, numbers that are hard to argue. But I'm always open to discussion about them. Shoot me a message on IG if you want smoke about something I said. But yeah, thanks for having me, Will.
All right, no worries. Always a pleasure having you on, Devil. And last but not least, Taniela, thank you for making the time to jump on at the end. Final thoughts and how can people find you?
Yeah, look, to all the fellas that on the panel, thank you for the opportunity to be part and for you guys to hear what my opinions are and what I have to say. I think final thoughts for me is I think the quality of men nowadays are getting more and more risk averse. There are no better ways of figuring out where you stand and who you are as a man until you go out and actually experience the things that we talk about in these podcasts. If you're looking to learn anything and take away anything from this podcast, what is more robust is that you go out and follow whatever steps it is that you're taking out. We can give out great tips for both men and women, but unless you experience it as a man and as a woman too, you're not going to really learn anything. And not only that, I love Devil for the analysis in terms of statistics and what is overwhelmingly over to one side of the metric. But also at the same time, there is another thing that often I see people get analysis paralysis. So don't let the data sort of put you in a position where you cannot make a decision because as men, we know how hard it is. And that has been the only true measure of what builds great value for us as men. Unless someone else out there can come to me and say, hey, hypnosis works, or I can put you in a machine and I can download all the data that requires you to be a great man. I stand and I'm a big proponent of hardship, suffering and pain as the only true measure of what makes a man a man. So other than that, again, well, for the opportunity, I'm deeply grateful. And it was a great conversation and thank you for having me.
No worries, fellas. Thank you so much. Fellas, thank you so much for making the time. Shout out to everybody in the live chat that's still watching right now. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Thank you for the live comments. And don't forget, we do this every single Wednesday. Different panel, different topic. And shout out to you guys. And drop the links for all the fellas below to make sure you guys support them on the channels as well. But fellas, you guys have a good night. Taniela, good day. I know it's still early day over there. But see you guys next time. Appreciate y'all. Peace.
Later. Thanks.
All right, fellas. Thank you so much, man.